Hi, I'm going to try and go through some tips for keeping a ring sling comfortable and getting it adjusted. So I see a lot of questions about keeping the rings in the right position and keeping the sling from either pinching up on the neck or riding all the way down on the arm and restricting movement. So the first thing that I would advise is to minimize the slack in the sling to start. So think about your baby's body, how big it really is, and try to have only a little bit more than that in terms of slack in the sling before you start. Anything that minimizes the amount of fabric you run back and forth through the rings will keep these areas of fabric from tangling and folding over each other, which makes the sling much easier to adjust in terms of areas of its width. The top corresponding to the reds here, or the middles, the yellow and blue, or the sort of pink and green that are on the bottom. Spreading the fabric in the rings evenly before you start is a good way to also keep that sliding evenly. So I made a separate little video of that, but basically if you can see all the different areas of the fabric, especially the outer two rails, you'll find it much easier to adjust. So let me get the baby in real quick just to save my arm here. She's about, what, 18, 19 pounds now? So anyway, neck to knee pits, holding the fabric, sliding it under, getting her in a nice seat there. All the way curved, all up the back, and she can be arms in or out as she wishes. So let's see where we are. It's maybe riding a little higher on my neck than I like. So one of the first things I'll do is lift the baby's weight and then just physically lift and adjust the sling to where I want it on my shoulder, doing a little shake and wiggle to get the fabric moving and loosened against my clothing, because there's friction between baby's clothing, my clothing, and the fabric of the sling. Any extra twisting or wiggling you can do will free that up to move where you need it to be. So physically move it. Some of the problems I see are that sometimes wearers try to tighten so much, and I'm going to pull away and over to tighten, that this ring of fabric following the red becomes so small the fabric has no choice but to move up into the shoulder. And if this is comfortable for you, I think that's fine, but for me, I prefer it a little looser. Lift up on the bottom of the ring, holding the baby's weight, doing a little bounce to get enough slack so that I can move it to cup my shoulder. This is about where I like to wear them. Some people like to wear them more spread, but if you're finding this to be a problem and you feel like it restricts your movement, then maybe you have too much fabric along the bottom rail. So what you can do at that point, lift the baby, move the fabric to where you want it, take any slack from the back, bring it around toward the rings, and make sure that what you're pulling out through the rings by lifting away from your body and down while lifting the baby's weight is that you're pulling the slack out and not simply tugging at the whole sling, moving it around your body like that. So I hear when people have the rings here, again, if it's comfortable for you, that's fine. But if you like the rings higher up, a couple of things you can do are to start the rings higher up on your shoulder before you put the baby in. Another is to keep things well threaded and make sure that you're tugging on the slack in the tail and not the whole sling itself. Some of that you can do by lifting the fabric so it runs clearly, runs easily through the sling, pulling away from each other, making sure it's threaded. Pulling the slack to the front, lifting the baby's weight every time you make an adjustment so that you're pulling the slack of the fabric and not the whole sling and baby. Let's see, tightening the tail strategically would be, if you want to tighten, let's say I start super loose. All right, if I want to bring her seat up, lift the baby, find the corresponding area of the tail, pull out and down, lifting the weight. Now she's too loose at the top, so I'll pull the slack to the front, tightening at the back. Oh, it doesn't show, let's see. There, pull, bring the slack to near the rings, and then lift up and pull away from the rest of the tail, so this direction, out and across, while lifting the baby's weight. And again for the inside, If I have too much slack right here, gather the loose from the back, bring it to the rings, bounce the baby a little, and lift away from the rest of the sling, out and down. Repositioning the sling. Sometimes we have issues where the baby's wiggling, your clothes are wiggling, and you find that the sling is here, even though you like where the baby is. To get the fabric, to get the sling back, all you need to do is put the baby back into position as if you're reloading. So on the in the burp position on the shoulder, insert your hand under the sling, separate the baby from the sling fabric a little bit so that the sling is free to move relative to the two of you. Then just grab the sling fabric and tug it to where you want it on your body. And I could go completely around my body this way if I needed to, just like, you know, if you were straightening a twisted t-shirt or a skirt or a waistband, just bring it to where you need it. And then we'll make sure the back is still flat. And then you simply reload the baby. Top and inside rail, lean forward to get her a good seat. Pulling up between the legs. Let's see if I can get a shot of that. Hey, there we go. And then again, it's up my neck, so I lift the baby, put the shoulder where I want it, and there we go.